Hello, good evening and welcome to the program. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you most kindly for joining us on the program. Tonight, we turn our attention to the electoral space in Nigeria as the Anambra governorship election is just around the corner, with INEC security agencies apparently preparing for what looks like a showdown in the heart of the southeast. What will Nigerians witness in the first conduct of a major election under Professor Joash Amopitan? And what are some of the prevailing issues that may indicate what's to come as we prepare for 2027? This will be the focus, alongside many of the other political talking points shaping the conversation around 2027. But first, let's bring you up to speed with the latest political stories of the day.
The Lagos State chapter of the All Progressives Congress APC has said Nigeria needs leaders who think before they speak, not those who mistake populist sound bites for serious policy debate. Reacting to Peter Obi's recent comments on diversifying port development, the party said the former Labour Party presidential candidate lacks constructive intellectual engagement. In a statement by a spokesperson, Mogaji Seyi Oladejo, the Lagos APC said President Bola Tinubu's administration focuses on governance, not propaganda. The United States government has revoked the non-immigrant visa of Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka. In a letter dated October 23rd and signed by the U.S. Consulate General in Lagos, Soyinka was directed to present his passport for physical cancellation of the visa. Speaking at the media party in Lagos, Soyinka read portions of the official correspondence, which stated that the visa had been revoked under U.S. Department of State regulations and was no longer valid for entry into the country. The House of Representatives has expressed concern over growing security threats to the National Assembly, including reports of a terrorist plan to bomb the complex. Chairman of the House Committee on Internal Security, Honorable Garba Ibrahim Mohammed, made the disclosure during a public hearing on a bill to establish the Legislative Security Directorate. The session held at the National Assembly in Abuja focused on improving internal security for lawmakers and legislative staff. The Adamawa State chapter of the African Democratic Congress ADC has split into two factions as former SG Babachir Lawal and 2023 APC governorship candidate Aisha Binani held parallel meetings to elect new state executives. Lawal's meeting was attended by former Governor Bindo, ex-Senator Ishaku Abo, and Abdulaziz Nyako. Those aligned with Binani include Senator Ahmad Barata, Umar Bello Jada, and Ibrahim Mustafa, signaling deeper cracks within the party's structure.
Welcome back to the program. You're still watching Daily Politics on Trust TV. We're going to talk about the politics of the day and the forthcoming Anambra governorship election, a race that has so many elements, multidimensional elements, but one that makes it a lot more interesting because the new helmsman at INEC, Professor Joash Amopitan, is about to get a test of what's to come in 2027, the first of many elections under his stewardship. Well, let's speak to someone who understands Nigerian elections, Nigerian politics, and what is at stake as we traverse the various talking points for the conversation tonight. Joining me is the national chairman of the Conference of United Political Parties, Comrade Chief Peter Ameh, is here to provide some context to the conversation tonight. Chief, it's good to see you again. Thank you so much for stopping by this evening.
My pleasure to be here. We'll do Nigerian work.
Right, as always. First things first, let's talk about the Anambra Guber poll. This week, last week, a lot has been said about what's to come. The ADC has raised concerns about comments credited to the incumbent, Professor Charles Soludo, when he made some somewhat disturbing comments about promises to electorate ahead of the November 8 governorship election. First of all, your 2 cents on what he said and what the ADC is calling for, an investigation into what they see as outright vote buying.
What Charles Soludo did was in fact, an assault on our democracy. It was something that was not expected. I wasn't expecting it for somebody of with his level of exposure and education, because in an attempt to try to, show his weakness in a build-up to the Anambra governorship election, he went ahead and started offering money for vote, money in exchange for vote. That is clear under our laws. It is voter inducement, and people wonder. It's really frightening that such statement came from him. I had to go look for the video to watch it to be very sure that he made such statement, and even look for interpreter to clearly, understand within which context that statement was made. And to me, it was clearly a very bad day for our democratic progression. Because what you do as somebody who has been in government for, they're elected for a period of 4 years, and you serve about 3 years, going to the, last lap of your first term. What you should do is to start to now present, let your campaign be issue-based. Let it not be driven by mudslinging and all sort of level of malfeasance that will undermine the conduct of our election. Let it show that, I have constructed certain roads in your community, I've done this for the development of Anambra State, and I've done that. But INEC should do more. INEC can continue to pretend as if that what was said by Soludo is not in public domain, or they are not aware of it. They are aware of it, and they should be able to take action, because apart from being regulator, they are also responsible, to look at how elections work, and whether elections are, the rules and regulations governing the elections in Nigeria are respected by all actors, whether political parties or their candidates. So it is clearly that he has undermined the principle of democratic engagement, and that should be made known to him, in writing by the electoral umpire.
I'm sure you've heard the response of his political party saying that, listen, this is not inducement, it's incentivizing voters to come out and participate. In fact, according to them, this is an antidote for voter apathy. Does that make sense to you?
It doesn't make sense. That means the electoral space will become unwieldy if all of us now wake up and say that we are offering money. It will destroy the same nature that election is supposed to hold, the sanctity of the ballot, because electors are supposed to take their decision based on informed opinion, based on decision, based on the fact that they are enthusiastic enough to go cast a vote for a particular candidate. But what it is that I think from their own perspective, they've seen that there's a slow, acceptance of their government, and in panic, build up to that election. They have decided to see maybe what policy cannot do, what knowledge cannot do. Maybe more money will do it, and that's the angle he has taken. But it is totally disappointing. It is totally unacceptable and should be condemned by all sundry.
Is INEC handicapped in this situation, or do you think we have all the necessary laws to prosecute or investigate a situation like this beforehand, before November 8?
Yes, we have all the necessary laws to prosecute, because even such level of attempt to bribe some person is a crime under our laws.
Can you prosecute intent in this position?
But the fact, the only
monies
reason,
have not exchanged hands yet.
At the time, I should be more vigilant. The only thing he's standing on today is the fact that he has immunity, and he's going to enjoy that immunity until the end of his tenure if it's not re-elected. And if he's re-elected, maybe for another 4-year term. So is that immunity, I think, that should be the only thing, because there's a way INEC should do. INEC should be bold enough. If going to an election, you find a candidate that is, going to undermine the what they call the democratic fabric that governs the conduct of election in Nigeria, INEC should be bold enough, even if it's to disqualify a candidate. You should be bold enough. Let's test this through the court, because at the end of the day, what INEC chairman is promising is the fact that the contestation of our election will end at the polling unit, that our election will not be so judicially so driven that the court undermine and determine the outcome of an election, because the judicialization of our election is even undermining the conduct of election in Nigeria, and that is also a reason for voter apathy. So whatever he's doing today will not improve voter confidence, because it will move further undermine it, because those with high level of intellect, we've definitely not participated in that election. They will definitely not show up, because they've seen that it's all about vote buying, and INEC feels pretend as if it's handicapped, and we know they are not.
We have a new man in charge, the man in the picture there, Professor Joash Amopitan, and he said quite a lot, re-echoing what the president told him during his swearing-in ceremony when he met with the management of INEC and subsequently some of his engagement. Listen, we cannot allow politicians determine what the results of the elections would be. Let the voters speak. Let the integrity of the process be guaranteed. I mean, he's saying all the right things, isn't he? Is Anambra going to be a defining moment for his stewardship of INEC, you think?
And Anambra will be a partial defining moment, because I think he has less than 2 weeks to, understand the commission, to also do what he needs to do. And for me, if he's confident enough, what he should check is his operation department and make sure that his operation department is up and running, and they are not involved in any level of racketeering, whether it's be it Beavers, be it from ECAA, as we saw at in Edo State. Because if INEC continue from that department, that operations department, continue to undermine or continue to act in a way that affect our election negatively, I don't think people will have interest. He's a lawyer. And that's one thing I tell people, because most of the time when the judgment gets to INEC, from the legal department, people have their own interest and people they are loyal to it. So their opinions mostly are not really as balanced as it should be. But today we have a lawyer as the chairman of the commission, and we have a professor of law, an SCN for that matter. So you will be able to look at the legal provisions and regarding to how elections should be conducted and the principle of how the election will be conducted. But he is saying that the president told him that he should conduct election in a way that free and fair. I don't believe in the statement of the president. And if he's using the president's statement as a way to tell us he wants to act in the line with the president, a lot of people will lose interest in him, because nobody thinks that a man who is going to play in a field, in a football match, who is already panicking from the attacks, coming from his opponent, will come and be offering advice that will be, detrimental to his own survival. It is not something that anybody should believe, and he should stop using that as a public explanation to people, because it gets people scared, because people say, the appointing authority should be changed, and now you are telling us all you want to do is the advice for the appointing authority, who also is a participant in the election. So I think he should cut that off. He should say that I'm going to act in the best interest of this country. I'm going to act in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is supreme, and acting around with other relevant laws, including the subsidiary legislation that is made by INEC. Because while we're in this crisis, why there's nosediving in the interest of our people in the election, is that INEC makes law for himself, a regulation for himself, which is called, the last one is called Regulation and Guidelines 2022 for the conduct of 2023 election. And INEC made that regulations to fit in with the provisions of the Electoral Act of that period. And the INEC denied the whole of those provisions, and the court helped on also helping them to undermine the election. So it must just promise us that this will not be business as usual, because I sat with Mahmoud Yakubu. He made all sorts of promises. He even told me how families were telling him he must do the right thing. But at the end of the day, what happened? What happened? It became a monumental disgrace at the end of the day. So we need to have a commission that is driven by the passion to save this country, not the commission that is telling us that the president told him. What the president told him, I don't believe.
I mean, what the president said on face value, you have to be honest about it, is the right thing, isn't it?
On face value.
Right. So why do you have a problem with him re-echoing what the president said?
It's about trusting what he said. He was president when the election was conducted, where other elections were conducted. He was president, and he's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and he's the sole appointer of the Inspector General of Police. He saw how the security agencies, because the full gamut of our elections goes beyond INEC. You understand? There's this, interference of the security agencies, how they are supposed to play well, how they are supposed to be not partisan, how they are supposed to respect the wishes of the people at the ballot, and how they are supposed not to help anybody become a winner at the end of the day. He saw that. Were there any disciplinary committee? Were there any investigation to even from the loud voices coming from Edo State and other states about how elections were manipulated? There were nothing like that. We're not saying it should interfere in INEC. INEC should do internal regulation, internal management, and self-regulate its own processes. That is the kind of idea we want for INEC. But to say that today that we should use this face value of the statement of the president, I'm just trying to help the INEC chairman, not to use the president continuously and say it, because it will now start to, align with the feelings of the people on the street and say that, look at now the president is a call. So it's necessary. It creates a proper guidelines for the conduct of election and stated based on law.
You think Nigerians should be concerned because the famous expression, he who pays the piper dictates the tune, has been re-echoed over and over again because of the presidential powers that the president has in nominating the INEC chairman. A lot of people feel there is inadvertently going to be some sort of alignment between what the president wants and what the INEC chairman does.
Election is a very big project, for a country, and it determines the outcome of how governance will eventually be led by those who will be elected. So it is a critical point in our lifetime, especially in the life of our country, to make sure things are done right. But why it is difficult to also believe that there will not be a back channel, from the presidency to speak with Amoputon is difficult, because I saw even the handing over and removal of Yakubu as something that was forced. I saw it as something that was forced, and I even saw it in the press statement afterwards, directing the INEC chairman to hand over to Madam May. So the president does not have that power to control, because the commission is supposed to self-regulate, like I've said. Oh, my tenure is over, will be over in the next 1 month. I want to leave early, or I'm leaving a day before my tenure expires. Automatically, the national commissioner you hand over to. So this directive is coming from the president. It's part of the things we say that they are behind the marks game that many Nigerians do not see, and that the commission is still having the third-hand interference from those who are the appointing authority. You see, as far back as 2008, wise men, Justice Mohammed Lawal Wales, made the recommendation with his team that the appointing authority should be removed from the presidency. 2008. So that was not just something that happened. It is something they must have looked at the whole issue and looked at how important it is to give truly independence to that independent National Electoral Commission. And till today, no president has been willing to do it. That is to show you that there's something that they are benefiting from it. If a president is not willing, we have had several presidents since then. The only person who was willing to do it was Yaradua. But he died because he's the one that set up that committee. Jonathan didn't do it. Buhari didn't attempt to do it. I don't think Tinubu would do it. So there's something that is not right with the management of the commission. And that thing is the fact that the appointing authority remains in the hands of one political party.
Right. Okay. Let's segue and talk about more of what was said post-appointment, because this week the new chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, or the INEC chairman, Professor Joash Amoputon, vowed to dismantle the excessive pre-election litigation that has long plagued Nigeria's democracy. He was attending an annual national conference of the Nigeria Association of Law Teachers, something which he has identified with. And he also said that he's vowing to end the courtroom warfare that often has inundated our electoral processes. But more telling is what he said in the speech, where he said his desire is that when we get the law right, even the losers will be the first to congratulate the winner. That is when we can truly say our democracy has matured. He has also called on the National Assembly to strengthen the country's electoral laws, insisting that credibility of elections depend on robust legal frameworks and political parties that practice genuine internal democracy. Back to the question I raised earlier. He's saying all the right things. Is it enough to inspire public confidence? Is it enough, you think, to improve our voter turnout, starting with Anambra on November 8th?
No, Anambra will not feel the effect of his decision. It is post-Anambra election that will feel the effect of whatever will happen, because if there is no late arrival of materials, if logistical challenges does not overwhelm the conduct of the election, because you have what they call the logistical challenges stem from, when you take things to have a conduct of Anambra election, how you are able to reverse it, which is called reverse logistics. So if you can able to do, and then results are announced, and then we don't see results that are cancelled, that are mutilated, results that are rewritten, these are the things that will not say, oh, he's willing to do something, because the hope of people had hope when Osun State governorship election was conducted with INEC. And people thought, the 2023 election, you don't even need agent. It's going to be at the polling unit. It's going to,
seamless.
Yeah, it's going to be seamless. And people are going to vote, is going to count at the polling unit. But this criminal collusion center that we still have, that is used to manipulate the election result, is still a challenge. And he must also know that as much as he's willing to do that, there are people who are beholden to principalities within the commission. We might want to undermine his reform agenda for the commission. And for him to be able to make Nigerians have interest, he must be very fast in making sure those things that are necessary for a conducive environment to make election free, fair, and credible, and then transparent, are put in place for the Anambra governorship election. So that, because our elections are not elections. Our elections are just, open theater, and then the re-elected people are done by the courts, because that's what I said, the courtroom warfare, and you find that...
is that a fair generalization, Chief, to say that all our elections are not won on the election day? I mean, we have a significant number of litigations, but if you juxtapose it with the totality of our elections...
If you have anything like 70%, what are you going to say? The rest is irrelevant, because maybe the people who didn't want to go to court, maybe they don't have resources.
But you also have to consider how many elections have been overturned by the courts.
The
majority of them
most times have they overturned rightly. There are people that elections were overturned and truly they didn't win. It happened. I saw one in Anambra. A senator was removed. Please, I don't want to go into details, because every person I call his name here will be my friend. If I go against the senator, it's somebody I've known for many years. But the truth remains that even in Abia, I saw things. I saw a lot of other things where a particular case was used to keep a National Assembly person on his seat, and that same reason was used to remove another. I've seen that. But I don't want to go into specifics.
How much of that is because of INEC's ability or inability to do the right thing? Because as he's saying, political parties need to learn to play by the rules, by their own constitution, by the provisions of the Electoral Act, by the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution. Are we putting all the blame on the electoral umpire when things go wrong?
Politicians.
With pre-election cases, for instance, which the new INEC chairman is not pleased about.
Politicians contribute certain percentage, but I am telling you the truth, that if INEC put his foot on the ground, even the pre-election cases will die. Because you see party cases sometimes. I've been in INEC. I go to INEC for many years. I've been in this business for a long time. You find out that even within a party, INEC has interest of who should not be chairman. Within political parties.
Really?
Yes. Yes. I'm telling you this on this. If they drag it further, I'll start to mention them.
When you say interest, qualify that for me.
Maybe there's a party chairman in place that people in the party want to change, but that particular party chairman does not speak against the commission. The commission, maybe the commission chairman, the chairman of the commission, like the previous chairman Mahmoud, or is loyal to the previous chairman, or he doesn't criticize the previous chairman, or is a friend of the commission. They will resist that change. They will do everything to manipulate the process. It's the truth. They know the truth. I tell them the truth all the time. I don't feed by them. I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman. I do politics, but I do business. So I know for a fact that if I cut down those illegalities, those interference, those personal interest in political party issues, I'm telling you, primaries will be free, primaries will be fair, and conventions will meet necessary requirements before it passes to become a legal instrument of electing national officers. So primaries and all these things look, there are parties that open right letters that want to conduct primaries, and INEC will not go. But there are parties that will write. People will be jostling within the commission to be represented at that primaries, because it's going to be very lucrative primaries. So these are the truths behind the closed doors. They exist. He must be able to, he must, as first of all, identify good men in the commission. I'm not saying there are no good people in the commission. I know people. Head of departments that are good, I know them, that will stand by their right. Even when you approach them, oh, please, they say no, they don't want to be part of it. He must identify these people that will be able to carry out his vision and deliver on those promises that he's making. Because within the commission, there could be sabotage. And there will be sabotage. So you need to identify these people, these credible men that will also carry that vision. Because elections everywhere in the world, voters are accredited at the polling unit, vote are cast at the polling unit, vote are candidate at the polling unit, and voters candidates are elected at the polling unit. So we don't need all this collation center. We don't need this manipulation of the processes. It must also assure Nigerians that this result from ECHA will be transmitted, and that's all. There's not be too much wahala to this business.
And in talking about what position he has found himself in as the helmsman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, is obviously going to inherit some goodwill, whatever that amount is. is also going to inherit a lot of the not so positives, the liabilities of the electoral umpire. Talk to me about the political parties. What is the position that INEC is in right now in terms of regulating the crisis that is bedeviling much of the political parties that are in the public domain, whether it's the PDP, whether it's the Labour Party, and all the other key political associations or political parties that we have in the country. Give me your understanding of what he needs to do right now to avoid some of the landmines that currently exist.
Before, a long time ago, there was a director of election and party management, Regina Omagigi. She was very fierce, she was very direct, she was very principled, and most of the time that helped in saving parties from not falling into deep crisis, because she had she knows the processes and she was able to administer this political party issue directly. And I've also seen subsequently I've seen other directors, and I've seen even the current directors that she's doing well. But the major issue for me and the major takeaway in his appointment is I'm happy with, well, is the fact that he's a lawyer. Because the manipulation comes from misinterpretation of legal cases, how they call it, representation of legal opinions, and even forging. People bring court cases that are not even gotten up to judgment or gotten any order, and then they present it, and somehow you see the commission acting upon it because he aligns with the interest of those of the chairman of the commission. So if this is a lawyer. That's why my assurance, I have some little bit of rest that he's not going to tell me that the legal department misdirected him.
Are there situations where he would find himself in a catch-22 situation where, regardless of the move he makes, he will still receive backlash from any of the camps who feel that INEC is taking a side? I mean, some would say that's what Professor Mahmoud, had to deal with for the most part. If he recognizes one camp, the other camp will say he's biased. If he recognizes the other, or the INEC as a commission recognizes another camp, they would say, listen, it's because they're in bed with the other, or they're working for the government.
Not necessarily true. The truth is that there are clear judgment, and you have the issues, and this judgment can be properly interpreted by somebody who knows it, even by the layman on the street. For instance, you can take the judgment of the Supreme Court in the issue of Labour Party. You can also take the judgment of the PDP case, and now the Court of Appeal judgment by the SDP. These judgments are there. Once in a while, you just open it and read it and see, even as a layman, you come to a logical conclusion what the context of the case, brought before the learned jurist was, and the outcome, they delivered. So it is not just basically that Nigerians are not satisfied or that politicians are mischievous. We know they are mischievous. There are a lot of politicians that don't have principles, that will basically fight and give their life just because they want to be in office. There are a lot of them like that, no doubt. But the commission is not just a regulator. It's not just a registrar, it's also a regulator. And it has check box for everything. Like you want to do primaries, there's a guideline for how you conduct your primaries. If you want to do convention, there's a guideline for how you conduct your. They're already there in the political party regulations and guidelines as put together as subsidiary legislation by INEC. So it's not something anybody can run away from. All these things are there. You want to register political party, there's guideline. So I think if the guideline is followed, judiciously, with respect to the interest of those who are involved, and you see both parties will go away. That's why it's telling you that the post-litigation phase of our election will reduce and will die off. Why it's telling you is that both parties will see the election was conducted transparently, freely, and fairly. Because if the parties don't see that, that's why the other goes to court. And when the others feel just change and look at the record of the from ECHA that is with him and find out that what INEC announced is not reflective of the true position of what he has, then he will go to court. It is the commission.
Yeah, but at some point you would have to admit, Chief, that INEC as a regulator mostly observes, doesn't it? It doesn't have an active role in managing the affairs or supervising the affairs of political parties. Take, for instance, what's happening with the ADC right now. We hear some states, there is an interim committee, there is an implementation committee, and everybody is fighting one another. PDP right now, the convention is just around the corner, and they're not even done screening the candidates. I mean, we understand that it's going to end up in the courts. There's a judgment that is coming up by the end of this week, or by Thursday this week. So on and so forth. This is what INEC has to deal with. The crisis that is self-inflicted by these political figures in these political parties. Is there any way the INEC can be much more active as a regulator, in your view, in preventing the chaos that is happening?
If there's a case before the court, I don't know what the material issues are before the court, but the fact is that it has been stated long before now that no court has the power to stop a convention that is already in motion. So if I wake up on the 31st or the 30th and find out that the court has stopped a convention from holding in Oyo State, I believe that there's strong arm of government in it. That's what I would believe naturally. And if you look at what you are saying about Sule Lamido, Sule Lamido is the most faithful, loyal party member of the PDP. He has shown some high level of fidelity to the party. And with the kind of respect I have for him, despite all the ups and downs of the political people who gallivant from one party to another, he has stayed the course and stayed with the party. But there are issues. For every convention, there's regulations and guidelines issued by the party where there will be sales of form, the closing of sales of form. The screening was supposed to be today. He said he wanted to buy form yesterday. So I believe that I do not, the respect I have for him, I feel there's another tone to his decision. Because
you think this is off-brand?
Yes, that's how I feel. Because there's guideline where you are supposed to purchase your form, where the screening will happen, when the last day for the purchase of membership form to contest, the day for submission, the day for screening. So if you just wake up and a day before screening, I say you are going to buy form, there's something is there that I don't understand. So I think as time goes on, and I want to acknowledge the internal workings of PDP for postponing the screening, to be able to listen to him, because it's critical that the opposition remain firm and well coordinated ahead of 2027. So that's why we're speaking on this matter. But INEC always has a way. INEC only come to the primaries to observe. What do they come to do? People must understand that truly, internal political party matters, INEC does not interfere. INEC cannot force you to say this is what we want. But INEC can tell you what you have done is not in line with the law. That you guys see, they just say it's semantic, but it's the truth. When INEC comes with
that should be enough.
Yes, INEC comes with a checklist and say, oh, you didn't notice. And it is clearly stated that before the 7 days, at least 7 days before the conduct of your convention, you must submit the names of your convention planning committee. You must notify the commission of the venue at which the convention will happen. I mean, you shall. You shall. You shall. You shall also notify the commission of those who have already been screened to contest that certain positions. So when they get there, after that 7 days, you cannot reverse those decisions. And when I get to the place, you will not look how many delegates are supposed to be there, how many are here, from which of the zones, and look at how this is, whether they meet the requirement of the party constitution, right, the electoral and the constitution. So there's no gainsaying that INEC has so much authority to manage political party and put them in line to function as stated in our constitution, as directed by our constitution for them to operate.
Okay. Final point on the forthcoming election in Anambra. You say that it might not necessarily be an N-O-B-O moment for Joash Amopiton's track record with INEC. But what is at stake, especially in talking about the processes? What departure would we need to see to send a signal that we're turning a corner as far as some of the indices are concerned? You talked about the logistics and everything, but is there anything instrumental that you want to see that would signal a departure from the norm?
Earlier voting material to the polling unit. The voting process must be, very clear and transparent. And then, most importantly, that the transparent process of the conduct of election is open for all to acknowledge. Because at the end of the day, even as much as we will not use it to judge him on a 100% basis, the Nigerian society will still hold the opinion against him. And he should take that into consideration when he's managing his election war room on the night during and post-election phases, when he manages and looked at how materials are moved from one community, because Anambra to have riverine areas, and he must also be able to plan ahead of time so that we are not waking up on election day and they are saying that on certain areas we can't get material because they are in water region. So it is necessary for him to also know that no matter what we do, no matter how we try to say, we won't use it as a benchmark to judge him. That election will also speak volume, whatever is put into it by the commission. I know the commission is prepared to conduct election, but it is Joash Omoputan's name that will be, that people will be looking out for, to criticize and see how much capacity is bringing to the commission.
Obviously, it's going to be his first test at some sort of public approval of his ability to get the job done. Let's segue into more politics around 2027. I want to start with Joss. We'll segue and talk about ADC and all the other underlying issues that are fast developing. You heard, I presume, the comments of the executive governor of Plateau State, Caleb Muftuang, who talked about, a lot of pressure applied on him to decamp, just like some of his colleagues have on the platform of the PDP. Well, in case you as a viewer didn't catch up on that development over the weekend, let's have a listen. Hear from the horse's mouth the thoughts of the governor of Plateau State speaking on the rumored defection and what the APC had to say about not being open about him joining their ranks.
But I told them only two people will authorize me to change party. One is the God of heaven. The other is you people. Have you asked me to go anywhere? No. Have you asked me to go anywhere? No. So those who are rejecting me for what I did not look for, they are doing a useless exercise. And they are only hiding their desire. They are only hiding their desire. The truth is that 60-70% of the people in APC on the plateau, I make bold to say, they will be glad to have us in their party. It's just that they are biting their finger.
The drama, the political drama unfolding on the plateau. The thoughts of Governor Caleb Muftuang of Plateau State reacting to the developments of the past week, where the stakeholders meeting of the APC made some remarks about not being open to welcoming the governor to join their ranks, calling on him to stay where he's at, alluding to how they would take power in 2027 when the elections come around. We've seen a lot of the theatrics with Nigerian politics. Your 2 cents on this one? I mean,
I'm not impressed with the way the governor spoke. He was saying from too many angles that 50% or something would be happy if you join their ranks. As an opposition leader, you should speak in the clear terms, and not.
You think he was mincing words?
Yes, he was. He was from the beginning of his statement. Nobody's asking you should stay. I never applied to join the APC. I'm not interested in the APC because I love my party. I belong to the opposition, and I will defend the right of the opposition. That's our leader. I don't know what people look for. You are already governor. Even if you do governor for 2 years, they will call your family these children or parents of former governor. So I don't know what Nigerian politicians are always pursuing or after. That makes them, always afraid to stand on principle. And that's why you see that APC can issue some level of response to him and say they should, that he has been begging them. And because nothing will come out of the blues from nowhere and say, yeah, you are speaking to us and you are, applying to join. They can't just make that up. There's something there. There's that beyond what he's talking about. But the fact remains that he got elected on the people's mandate, on a popular mandate of the people, in spite of the onslaught of the APC in the state. The APC was in control. And he got elected. And I don't know why opposition leaders as such will lose confidence in the people and then, try to want to look for, cover in those in the authority, especially at this federal level, when all they could have done was to deliver for their people, perform well, and make sure that their people see that they are working for the betterment of their communities. And they will re-elect them because it's about the vote of the electorate. But the issue also we cannot also take away that the APC is doing everything to dismantle the opposition. We look at what happened in Akwa Ibom when there was a leaked video where the governor was saying that, well, I'm leaving because if I don't leave, what will the APC do? They can use the court to take over, to take my victory. That video was there. It was leaked by one of the sister stations, I think Channel 11. So it is clear that APC wants to do everything to make sure that they're going to the election with all so many governors and senators. But they have forgotten that we have done an experiment in 2023, and the people are getting to become aware of the need, of the importance of their voters' card. And that's why people also look for money to buy vote, because vote exists and they need to buy it. So the more people become aware and the more the election becomes transparent, Nigerians will now start to determine the outcome of election themselves. And the election will not be so much based on what the outcome of the judges will say, but based on what the ballot papers that has been, printed by the electorate will say. So these are just the clear terms. APC is doing everything to undermine the opposition, and the opposition leaders are not doing enough, especially those who have been elected, to show that they believe in what they have delivered for their people.
All right. Still talking opposition politics, the ADC has been making rounds for some of the wrong reasons that we're hearing from states like Kaduna, Adamawa, and it's signposting the dysfunction with opposition politics. But there are some head scratches, because from Kaduna State we've heard of the nomination of Senator Nadi Usman to chair the interim committee that would oversee the transition of the party into its convention or its congresses at the state level. And people are left wondering, what is she doing over there? Your 2 cents on this one, because we talk about party loyalty and commitment of political figures to remain resolute in their fold to fix whatever problems they have with their political parties. Is this a sign that people loyal to Peter Obi are not necessarily sold on the idea of fixing the problems within the Labour Party?
I don't think that is a sign. I think when I leave here, I also bring it to our attention. I saw it recently, some few minutes ago. I'll bring it to our attention. And I also know that, people are appointing somebody, the person must have been attending your meeting. There's no record of her attending their meeting. But politicians can be very mischievous, because everything they are doing is to show people that Peter Obi is with the ADC and all that, and his people are with us. So that is what they're doing. So politicians can be very funny how they play their game. But at the end of the day, the truth will always speak louder than whatever mischievous intentions or intent they have towards, misleading the people. Because for me, I think that the loyalty to party is very important. I don't joke with it. I do not want to play too much party politics, jumping from one party before I resign from politics, because it doesn't make sense to me. I think that if you belong to a political party and if there are crises within the party, you should do everything to try to resolve them, except if they become unresolvable. You see deliberately that government is doing everything that someone like Peter Obi should not be on the ballot. If it comes to that, then you have no choice than to take a decision.
I would say Peter Obi opened Pandora's box, opened the pathway for this to happen, because we've seen him champion ADC candidates during the off-cycle elections, because according to his judgment, there were no Labour Party candidates in some of the elections, so he called on his supporters to vote for ADC candidates. Plus, he's also been vocal about his support for what's happening with the coalition that has adopted the ADC platform. And over the past couple of weeks, we've seen some cracks in the obedient movement in Anambra State, for instance, where some of his supporters, some of the obedience movement supporters have thrown their weight behind Professor Charles Soludo instead of George Moghalu, who Mr. Peter Obi has campaigned for. Is this the new normal now, where politicians have their legs or tentacles, as the case may be, in all these movements and political parties that are competing for the same thing?
People will always pursue their selfish agenda, but I'm telling you that the Obima movement issued statement afterwards that most of the people there were not known to them. And the Nigerian media must do more, to be able to...
I mean, isn't that an outright lie? I mean...
not all of them.
Ikenna Azumchine is a well-known obedient.
He's a member of the obedient. He's not the national coordinator of the obedient movement. The national coordinator of the obedient movement is Dr.
But also a known quantity.
Look, for me, I think if he has decided that he wants to be with Soludo, then it's fair for him to say, I want to be with Soludo. But why I said it's not the right statement is that there's a process. I'm in the strategy committee. I should know that if there's any sort of discussion that he has presented such before the obedient movement and say, oh, we in our own group, I myself is going to support this person. Let him, look, you can further your personal interest. Nobody has an issue with that. And for me, I will feel more embarrassed by Soludo. For me, it's a shame because if you have said and you have called P2B all sort of name and all sort of things, at the end of the day, you are struggling to get endorsement for the same P2B. It is where I see that.
You think he's struggling to get?
He's struggling because if you are looking for somebody, a fraction of his name to use to win an election, whereas you could have gone straight to him. So I think for me, I just feel pity for him as a person who is using that name from the back door. Not just all. There's nothing else. There's nothing else to say. If the obedient movement majorly want to support Soludo, it will be something that will be made very public and to not be, put in the.
Just to be clear, that's never going to happen.
No, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
All right. Finally, before we wrap things up, IPAC, a council that you've worked for, that you're proud of, that you've led, apparently is dealing with yet another crisis. One of its former national chairman, ADP, the current national chairman of ADP, Engineer Yeba Gisani, has been suspended from the council, and he's, going ahead to say, listen, we'll exist without the council. First of all, your reaction to that, and how important is the council in the grand scheme of things?
I feel very bad. We are the fathers of this council, and I've served the council 2 times as national secretary. Several committee chairman and all that to review the whatever document that eventually put the council to the I've also served twice as national chairman. So it is painful that we have never, even when parties were 96, we have never suspended any national chairman. We've never, because we need to be able to have the opportunity to dialogue with ourselves, to consult with ourselves, to be able to see our differences. For the council to go that far in suspending a member, he also undermined the strength of the council. Because I don't know whatever reason that is behind that, but I think I'm going to write the council and tell them to resign, to withdraw that statement. It has never happened. We've been here when it was formed, when INEC brought the proposal, when International Republic Institute brought the proposal, when other democratic institutions, because it was happening in Ghana, in Sudan, and some of the other countries, that they brought the template to us, we were here. Most of these people there today weren't there. To be sincere, they were not there. Dr. Tanko was there. All of us were there when this issue came up with INEC, and we had to, look at the benefit it will bring, how it has brought a unified front for political party opinion, and how we can manage it properly. So whatever is done to each of the members is supposed to be able to have a process to understand how to communicate with yourselves and accommodate opinion, because it's democracy, and we must have frictions and there must be consultations, and that process does not lead to say you will suspend a registered political party from the council.
All right. Interesting take there. Let's see where this development leads us to. For now, we're going to have to anchor the conversation here. Chief Peter Ameh, thank you so much for stopping by again on the program. I appreciate you very much for the analysis.
Thank you for having me.
Right. And that is a wrap on tonight's edition of the program. Daily Politics returns tomorrow, live and exclusive on Trust TV. Until next time, I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. For myself and the rest of the team, thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see you soon.